Matt here. So, I want to talk about what I want to do with money which I can generate from a project like Tac0. Uh, there are a series of non-government organizations which I want to create. So, the most important which is an NGO which functions as a consulting firm. Consulting firms are institutions that we use in Australia and other nations as well to check balances of things, check to make sure that policies and procedures in corporations and government departments and agencies are working above board. There are really two kinds of consultants. There are the consultants who engage in more copy and paste kind of interventions. So they'll check the policy for an organization against a series of best practices. And what they'll do is that they'll keep copying and pasting these best practices from one industry or company to another company. In the industry, that's called a lift and shift. The other kind of consultant is an industrial scientist. So a lot of industrial psychologists end up working in consulting firms. Another name for that profession are evaluation consultants. So a lot of people, they'll do a doctorate, or they'll have a research background in academic discipline, and then they'll go, you know what? Academia isn't all it was made up to be, right? I don't get paid a lot. I'm being asked to work ridiculous hours. I'm gonna try and hack it in industry. So they end up working in a consulting firm. They'll end up working for Deloitte or KPMG or some big firm like that. Now the issue is that these big firms, they've got a profit incentive, and there was a very famous example recently where PricewaterhouseCoopers stole information from our government when they were being asked to consult about taxation policy, and then they gave that information to their private clients before that taxation policy was released to the public, and that allowed these people to game the system beforehand, make decisions about their investments and whatever. And at the same time, because PricewaterhouseCoopers was double dipping, they were working in the private sector and promoting private sector interests while having a government client as well. What they were able to do is that they were able to influence the government's policy on these things. Now, what I want to do is I want to create an NGO which functions as a consulting firm. And that consulting firm will start their work primarily working with other NGOs before splitting off and working with government. That's the hope anyway. It's going to start off working with other NGOs because NGOs are the most inefficient organizations. When there isn't a profit motive at play, people tend to end up just sitting on their ass and doing nothing. KPIs don't get introduced, the bottom line isn't monitored, and money just gets splashed into something and nothing gets done. Government, they're slightly better than this because government departments, what they've got is that they've got a lot of policy and procedure which gets very much nailed out. The federal government is remarkably efficient, all things considered. Any institution which is able to get stuff done without a profit incentive, which is at scale, is an achievement, right? So that's what I'm wanting to do. That's the first thing. It's kind of what Doge it pretends to be, except Doge is just this bunch of this egomaniac fuckwit who's got too much money and has got this big ego project, right? What I want to do is I want to use my connections in industrial psychology in Australia and industry to be able to create this consulting firm. And that's something which I hope is able to be self-sustaining. We're going to use the money from Tac0 to push into this thing. We're going to improve the efficiency of other NGOs in Australia. From the track record that creates, I might separate the ownership of that NGO from myself to make it a very much self-governing entity, and so there isn't that concerns about political influence, and then let that NGO loose on government. And it wouldn't be let loose the way, it's not something like Doge, it's a consulting firm, right? A government department gets to choose if they're going to work with it or not. It also having an institution like that also solves a couple of other problems. There's something called warehousing. This is where we have executives from the government working in a consulting firm like PricewaterhouseCoopers, and then they come back from, well, it's usually KPMG, then they come back from KPMG when there's a change of government to work in the government again, right? Because what happens every time there's a change of government, a whole lot of senior government employees get taken out because they've got a different agenda. We have to they have to find some place to work. They work in the consulting firm, which works with government and gives advisory to the government. When the change of Parliament happens again, they're welcomed back into their government departments and are able to do their work again there. Now, warehousing needs to happen, right? It's just part and parcel of our of how our government functions. And if we don't have it, we're going to lose all of that expertise every time there is a regime change. We need to put them on ice somewhere. The place for that is not going to be in one of these big firms which have this incentive to steal information and use it for their own interests, right? It needs to be put into a firm which mission and direction is the benefit of society. Something which functions, well, I don't know if there is an equivalent. Maybe a university is the closest thing. But that's one of the projects I'm wanting to work on. I've got some other ideas. I also want to make more free software, such as Linux and alternatives to the Microsoft Word suite, and these things more efficient and available to the public. People don't tend to use these softwares because they're just not as good as the privately priced stuff. But I want people to have the option. I want people to be able to go to their university course and not have to spend $1,000 on a series of programs. I also want to be able to have something similar to a TAFE or a university where we can run experiments on pedagogy, and from that I want to use that information to be able to have other schools run education more efficiently. These are some of the projects which I'm wanting to use the money raised from Tac0 for. I'm hoping that we're able to scale this up. The extent of what we can do with this project isn't, it's not like I don't have all the information about it, but this is my dream case scenario. We're able to generate this money, we're able to continue the project, we're able to continue having people play the Tac0 game, engaging in the rituals of it, maintaining the ideology of it, and we're going to be able to use the money from these things to solve these societal problems. But I think the other main goal of it, for me at the moment, as the person who's really running the ideological component, who's trying to build something which is equivalent to a religion or a major political movement, such as the communist movement or the neoliberal movement, such as like embolized by people such as Ronald Reagan or Margaret Thatcher, although I'm politically quite different from them, is to create a Bible, sort of like a series of social stories that can be used to say, okay, this is what's good, this is what's bad, these are the values of our people group. This is a very rough shoot. I would love to have a production crew. I'd love to have speech writers and other things to be able to better facilitate myself getting my point across. For now, I'm sorry, you're going to have to deal with off-the-cuff words from my mouth, and that's the best direction I can give you at this time. Hope you have a lovely day.